Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought I'd show you a cute little stamp and die set from Art Impressions. And we're going to be making this cute little Mailbox Cubbies card. So let's go ahead and get started. The stamps and dies we're going to be using today are from Art Impressions. And the dies are included in this set, and it's called the Happy Mailbox Cubbies set. And these are clear stamps, and you get all these fun little pieces that coordinate with this mailbox. And you can see those on the back here. So we're going to be using the mailboxes, the letters, the bird, that little heart-shaped box, and the package. And then later we'll be using that sentiment, Happy Mail. We're stamping on Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I've placed it in my Misty stamp positioner, and I'm going to stamp it with some VersaFine Onyx black ink. So I went ahead and stamped these. But first, I need to stamp a couple more of those envelopes. We're going to need about 7 or 8 of them all together. So I'm going to attach my coordinating dies, and you'll see how fun this is because it's actually going to die cut little openings in the mailboxes here where we can slide in some little packages and envelopes and all kinds of things. So this is really fun. So you do want to make sure you spend a little time lining up that die before you die cut it to make sure that all those little notches are in the right place. And you can see that there's even a little place there at the bottom to tuck that envelope in. So now for my coloring, I'm going to use all shades of red and pink. And I will list all of those at the bottom for you. I'm not going to show you each one that I use because I just basically kind of mixed and matched them together. But basically every shade of pink and red I grabbed from my set here. So I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and these are a water-based marker with a fine detailer tip. And I'm using my blender pen to blend that out. And you do want to make sure your blender pen is clean before you get started, and you just scribble it on a scrap piece of paper. And then when it goes clear, you know that it's clean. You can also use a water brush here, whatever you prefer. I just find that this particular blender works really well because the tip on it is so fine I can get into all these little tiny areas. So I just wanted to say that I'm going to be doing some really quick coloring here. I did leave the coloring in because I know a lot of people do like to see that. If you're not interested in that, you can always skip forward. But basically, I'm trying to keep the darker color down towards the bottom and pulling it up towards the top. And I'm not using more than one color here because I did want to keep this pretty simple and easy to color in since there is a lot of coloring. So I'm using one color, basically putting the darkest color down towards the bottom and then pulling up towards the top. And if you need it to be a little bit more shaded, I'm just adding more of that same exact color. So I'm not introducing a second or third color here, which you could do, and you could also use your Copic markers here, which would be really beautiful as well, or colored pencils. So whatever way you find it easiest to color. I love coloring, so I find it fun just to stamp a whole bunch of images and then just sit, I get a clipboard and I sit and I'll color while I'm watching TV or waiting at a doctor's appointment or anything like that. The other thing I did want to say about these markers is if you get too much color, you can always just kind of pull color off and scribble it onto your scrap paper and remove a little bit of color that way. So again, this blender pen is pretty forgiving and allows you to kind of just blend and remove color without the water. Sometimes I do find with the water, it gets a little too wet and then I have to start blotting it up. So when you're working with a small area like these little images are, I do find this an easier way to go. But play around with what you have and see what you like the best. And also, if you stick around to the end of the video, I will show you, I did this same card or the same image with rainbow colors. And I'll show you that. And at the bottom, I will list all these pink and red colors that I used. And I'll also list all the colors for the rainbow card as well. So you can just check for that down at the bottom or on my blog. So I'll finish coloring up this image and I'll meet you on the other side of that. So now I'm just going to grab light gray and black just to do the metal and the shadow on the wood here. So for these little metal pieces, I'm just using the gray first. Then I'm going to add a little bit of black up towards the top here. And then I'm just going to pull that down towards the bottom. And I did the same thing for all of those. So I finished those up, and then for the wood here, I'm just blending out that little bit of gray. I put it off towards the left and pulled it a little bit towards the right there. Now I've got my Jelly Roll white gel pen, and I'm just going to add some highlights here. On about 3 of the mailboxes, I'm going to add some little polka dots. And these little highlights will just bring this to life a little bit more. I'm just adding a dash and a couple little dots. And then again, for some of the mailboxes, I'm just going to put some polka dots on them. So there you can see that up close. So I'm going to color in the little bird, and I'm just going to use red for his body. So I'm just going to put the red kind of around the outer edges there. And any of these reds or pinks would be fine. And then I'm just going to pull down towards his tummy there, keeping that tummy area the lightest. And then a little bit of orange on the beak. And I went ahead and colored in the rest of those tiny little images. So now with tumbled glass and broken china and my Picket Fence Studios brush, I'm going to go ahead and apply ink to this background. So I'm starting off with the tumbled glass, and I'm just going to put that all over. And then I'm going to the broken china, and I'm going to keep that darker color down towards the bottom. And I really wanted a light background, just soft background. And I do find that these brushes give you more of that effect. You can add just a little bit of a lighter touch here. And then I'm just kind of keeping the outer edges darker and that center the lightest. So you can keep blending until you get the look that you want here. Now I did decide to add a little bit more color, so I'm taking that broken china, I'm just pressing it onto my glass mat, spritzing it with a little bit of water from my distress sprayer, And with a small brush, I'm going to go ahead and spatter this background. Now I'm going to heat set that with my heat tool. And I did decide it was still a little too dark. So I'm going to go ahead and spritz it with my water. And because this is the Distress Oxide ink, that's going to pick up a little bit of that color. Just leave some little white areas in the background there, which is just going to soften this up and just add a little more interest. So now with my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, this is a detail pen, and I'm just going to use, and this is black, and I'm going to go ahead and create stitching all the way around this panel. And I like to do it freehand. I find it more interesting when the stitches aren't perfect. But if you want to, you could grab a ruler and use the ruler to go around the edges. But I do like kind of that random look that you get. We're going to be adding some little hash marks to this later on as well. But for now, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab my Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive and start gluing on some of these little elements. And here you can see there's a little slot there that I can put the envelope in. And this little mailbox opens up, that little flap opens up. So this is really fun. I just love the idea of this. I think you could have just about anything tucking out of these little pockets that you wanted to. So think of it for other things as well. Now I've got the little box there in that envelope that I decided I wanted to just have them popped up as they're coming out, just to add a little dimension. So I'm just sliding a little piece of foam mounting tape in behind those images there. Again, that'll just give it a little bit more dimension here. And then I'm going to continue placing all of these little items in the mailbox. And you can see that one also opens up. For this here, I'm going to place it right down at the bottom of the mailbox here, and there's some little slots that were die cut for that as well. So this is kind of fun just to play around with, and again, think of different images possibly you could use here. So that's the finished one, and now I'm going to go ahead and pop this whole thing up by placing some foam mounting tape all around the back. I'm removing the backing, and then I'm going to attach this to the card, and I'm sliding it down so it looks like those posts go all the way down to the ground. And I'm just going to snip away any excess here. Now I want to include a sentiment, so I'm going back to that same stamp set we had before, and I'm taking the words Happy Mail, and I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. And again, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper. This panel is about 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm just going to cut this down and create a little banner here. So I'm just cutting down the center and then cutting in from each side to that center point, and that's going to just create a little banner. So I'm going to flip that over and attach some foam mounting tape to the back of this, and I'm going to pop this up on my card. Now I do want to add the stitching to this as well, just to tie everything together here. So I'm just going to go back and do that quickly. And now I'm going to add those hash marks that I mentioned earlier. And I find this adds a lot to the card. And I just added 4 of them. Now I have a standard top folding A2 size card, which measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And using my ATG 700 tape dispenser, which has permanent tape in it, I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card. Now I need to grab 2 little envelopes and that little bird, and I want them to lay flush with this banner. So I'm going to put a little foam mounting tape at the top of the bird there, and then a little bit on one of these envelopes. And I'm going to glue these two envelopes together here because I want the bird to look like it's carrying in a couple envelopes here. And I'm removing the backing from that foam tape and just going to attach it here to my card. I'm tucking a little bit more glue in the back there. And then for the bird, I've got that foam tape at the top and I'm adding a little bit of glue down at his feet there. And again, that will just have everything lay flush on the card. Now I grabbed my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen, and this is just a clear sparkly pen. And this is just going to add a little bit of that sparkle to some of these images. So I went ahead and I just applied that randomly here and there where I thought it would be, fun to have. Now I'm going to take that light gray marker again and go all around the edges of this Happy Mail. I just thought it looked a little too white, so I wanted to give a little bit of a shadow here on it. So I just applied it all over the edges, and then I'm just kind of pulling it down until it goes to white. So here you can see the finished card. And I just love this image. I think it's really fun, and I do think there's a lot more things you can do with this. And I also wanted to show you that I made a second card, that rainbow card that I mentioned earlier. I used the same markers, and you can see that here up close. And for the background, I used some yellows. And I think this is a fun combination as well. I did go in rainbow order for the mailboxes, and then I just kind of randomly colored everything else in. And I used squeezed lemonade and mustard seed. And again, my picket fence brush. And I used all of these rainbow colors to color in the mailboxes. And I listed all those down below and on my blog. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.